Hey guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, let's take a base mesh here in ZBrush and sculpt it into a screaming face, just as a fun exercise. So this is not anything super detailed, but just kind of a fun exercise to get the basics down as far as where to start and how would this work, especially if you're new to ZBrush. I think this exercise might be super helpful. All right, so let's jump right in. All right, so to get started, what I did is I collected 4 random references from just Google Images, and I think these will serve us as a good reference. And instead of starting from the sphere to sculpt this so everyone can kind of follow along, I think let's just go into Lightbox, and let's just grab an existing head that already exists. So maybe something like, let's go to Tools, and let's grab this Nick Z human male. I'm just going to double click on it. I'm going to press comma on my keyboard to close my lightbox. And so now I have something like this, and I think this would be a good base to get started because I actually know that this model comes with the open mouth as well. So do this, and as our next step, let's go ahead and delete, or I guess we could just hide the hair. And I'm going to leave the eyes, the skull is already hidden, and the next thing I want to do is let's jump into the orthographic view, right? Because if we're just going to focus on the face, we don't really need the rest of the body, so we can actually cut that off. But before we make the cut, let's also open up his mouth. So this model again comes with an open mouth, so to do that, all you need to do is just go to Layers. And you can see if you move these layers up and down, the mouth is going to be open, right? So I'm going to actually just open all the way up as far as it goes, just to create a base mesh for us to follow. And I'm going to go ahead and say bake all. So I'm going to get rid of these layers. And you have to get rid of the layers if you want to actually chop up or slice the mesh. So make sure you do that, get rid of your layers. Next, I'm going to go to Subtools. I'm going to click on these teeth, and I'm going to move them or open them up as well. Same thing, I'm going to go to Layers, and let's just go ahead and dial this to where it kind of makes sense. So maybe something like that. And we can move them as well, but this is a good start, right? Again, we're just creating kind of a start base model for ourselves. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do Bake as well. Go back into the subtools, and this time I'm going to, let's go ahead and hide the teeth for now because we are not going to be worried about the teeth just yet. Let's just focus on the body first, right? And I'm also going to hide the eyes too. And let's go ahead and click on the top layer of just the body. Again, I'm in the orthographical view, so now I'm going to zoom out. And of course you can also press F if you want, you could do that. And let's do Control Shift. Let's go to our knife tools and let's grab something like the knife rectangular. And just for this exercise, I'm gonna delete all of this here. So just leave kind of the shoulders up, kind of a bust, right? Let's go ahead and zoom in. Very nice. I'm going to move my references up. And let's just start kind of sculpting. So for the sculpting part, I do want to be in the perspective view. And if you want to make sure that we have the same camera settings, if you go into, let's see, if you go into the draw, in here mine is currently set to 50. And you can see what that looks like. We can also change the field of view if we wanted to. And that doesn't seem to do anything, but anyways, let's go ahead and move this back. And let's just start sculpting this, kind of matching the references a little bit better, right? So for this, I am gonna grab my tablet. I'm not gonna be doing this with my mouse. And let's talk about this. Let's talk about the some of the facial features that are super important. So you can see all 4 references kind of have this fold right here by the mouth, right? And you have the scrunchy nose kind of moving up, and scrunchy eyes, right? So let's start kind of building all of that in. So I'm going to start with my nose. I'm just going to grab my move brush, And if you press X, you can activate your symmetry. And let's just begin to kind of shape this a little bit better, right? I'm not going to be really thinking of this as maybe a human character, more of a kind of a creature warrior, right? So we can really push the anatomy a little further, right? So I'm going to really just scrunch up his nose, and for the eyes, I do want to make sure that the eyebrows kind of come down and do something like that. Now for the mouth, right, we want very expressive large mouth. So let's go ahead and kind of move this up as well. I'm going to move up this entire lip, and I want to make sure I maintain, as I move the mouth, you really want to make sure you maintain your nostrils, right? You don't want to flatten them out too much. So I want to make sure there's nice volume here. And if I wanted to, I can even inflate them a little more. And we're going to start adding more and more detail, but make sure that you don't distort the nose too much as you're moving other parts of the body, right? So, or the mouth, right? So I'm going to start moving this up. I do want to make this way wider, and he's really upset. So to be even more stylized, maybe the bottom of the mouth could be a little bit larger, and the bottom lip is a little, you could see that's a little wider than the top, right? It's almost like tapering up a little. I think that's cool. I think for this character, he's going to be kind of a muscular, strong, very strong character. So I do want to pull out his chin. And I'm not going to worry about the sculpt looking really good from the side or the back. I just really want to focus on the front, right? So let's just start pulling out this chin, maybe a little bit forward, and also make it a little kind of a stronger and square, just something like this. I definitely want his cheekbones to be, his jawbone be really strong, right? And let's also start moving up some of these muscles up, because he's going to be almost like a warrior bodybuilder type, right? So we want to make sure that all of this is kind of much more powerful. So let's move that up. We can smooth this out if we wanted to. We can also grab our inflate brush and really emphasize some of these muscles by just adding more of a kind of a blobby inflate, right? So we could do that. Another thing we know, we can see very closely that a lot of this, there's a lot of tension on the neck, right? So to get some of these going, let's just grab something like the standard brush, and we can start emphasizing. If you hold on the Alt key, you can push some of this in and maybe emphasize some of this muscles here. We can also, I'm looking at this guy here, right? Let's just start kind of adding that in. Now, keep in mind, right now we are super low, right? So this, there's only 5,000 active points, and that's not going to be enough for us to sculpt at all, right? So I am going to press Control D a few times, but we also need to make sure that we're not in, let's go into geometry and make sure you turn off your dynamic, right? That's important. We don't want to have that preview. And now we can just start subdividing this. And I'm going to subdivide this at this point to like 1.3 million. Okay, I'm going to grab my move, and let's just start adjusting this so it makes a little more sense. So again, the muscles you can see in the reference are kind of flowing in, and I'm not going to be focusing on any of this here because you're not going to really see it, but we can grab the standard brush and let's just start building some of these here. Maybe hold the Alt key to push it in. I can also grab my pinch and fix this here. All right, very nice. Let's go ahead and just continue doing kind of the large foundational changes. So I do want to have the chin come out a little bit. So something like that, a little bit forward. By looking at this current angle, it looks like the head is just a little bit too tall, especially if you look at the references here, right? I think it would be better if we maybe brought it down a little bit, and then of course it has to make sense scale-wise from the side as well. So I'm gonna move this whole front down like this. We can move this in a little. And I do want to make sure that he has a nice, kind of a wide neck. And maybe, let's go ahead and push in these temples. And another thing we can do is, I definitely want to create a very strong, definitive jaw, right? So maybe, let's pull the cheeks out a little more and push this in. And you can see how right away it starts to look a little more stylized and a little more angry. Another thing that I'm noticing is I'm not loving these ears the way they are right now, so let's just maybe rework these a little bit. Do something like that so it's a little more round. And if we wanted to, from this angle, maybe we don't really want the ears to be the main focus. I'm going to push them in a little more. And next, let's just start adding some of the wrinkle detail. I'm going to grab my inflate brush, and I really want to emphasize the eyebrows, right? So the brows need to kind of stand out a little more. So that works. So I'm going to grab my standard brush and just start building some of these kind of lines, stress lines, right? So you have something like that. We can hold on the Alt key, push this in. And another thing I can do is grab my Damien standard brush, and let's just build in kind of this line in here. That's really important, right? Especially if you're angry or raging. You can see right there he has kind of a, there's three, you know, kind of 2 or 3 folds at least, right? So you got, let's add another line here, smooth it out. I'm gonna follow this line right here and just do kind of a more, so follow like from here to here. So you have a little more definitive line there as well. All right, and then we can scrunch the nose here as well. Maybe add something like that. So it's really just scrunching that whole area up. All right, let's switch to our move brush, and let's maybe make sure that the mouth, I want to make sure that these cheeks kind of come out, right? And this goes in, but you want to make sure that this area here is sort of flat. And we need it to be flat because we need to add this folding cheek detail. You can see that obviously on all 4 references. So we don't currently have that, right? So make sure that this area at this point is kind of nice and flat. You can even smooth it out. And now let's go ahead and just draw in some of this cool detail. To do this, I'm going to grab my folding brush, and I'm going to leave a link in the description. You can grab it as well. So I'm just going to switch to that and think of it as like a folding cheek, right? So maybe I can turn down my intensity to like 20. I'm just going to give myself something like that. I can push this in. I'm going to build this side up a little more, so it's a little more, it's kind of flowing into the face a little more here. All right, again, just looking at this reference here. I think that works. We can add, let's add some more detail by his eyes. So I'm gonna grab my Damien standard and let's just, you can see all 4 references have very distinctive lines on the eyes, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start from maybe from the back here and just start adding some lines using the Damien standard. And we can at first make them really intense, and then just using the smooth brush, we can just smooth this out a little more, right? So it kind of fits more into Alright, I can also hold down the Alt key and kind of do a reverse, maybe make the nose a little sharper and smooth this out. Again, just creating more of a stylized kind of feel for the character. And I do want to make sure that these are nice and sharp. For that, we can grab our pinch and maybe let's just start pinching some of this. So we have something like that. You can smooth this out. I'm going to also add more lines to my neck here. I really want to make sure that this has the proper flow, like it's flowing towards his neck. So let's add a couple more lines here. And in my case, I could need to push this in a little more so it's kind of, it's very intense and it's pushing towards the top, right? Because he's all scrunched up. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and activate my eyeballs. Let's go ahead and turn those back on. And if you need to adjust them because we adjusted the mesh, right? Make sure you are in the right layer, and let's just grab our move brush, make it kind of large. Let's just put them in position. So we can figure out what makes sense. So I think something a bit lower maybe is a little more crazy looking. I kind of like that. I think that works. If you wanted to see really quick what that looks like, you can do a quick BPR. And I think that totally works. I'm going to turn on my teeth. And let's just start positioning these into place as well. Just make my brush kind of large. And if you press the Alt and click on your teeth, you'll be able to select them. And let's just start kind of positioning them and maybe make them a little wider, right? Just make sure it matches the mouth. And if you wanted to make them a little larger, right, we can always grab our, let's do something like move topology, and let's just go in here and just kind of increase the size of them. Some of them maybe could be a little stronger, especially the top ones. And I honestly don't want it to be round, especially the front teeth. I mean, yeah, the front teeth. Okay, so check this out. So I think that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the tongue. I think the tongue could be, I'm going to turn on my polyframe and take a look. So if I hold on Control and Shift and click, I can isolate it. And now what I can do is I can do split hidden and make sure the tongue is by itself. All right. Now what I could do is I can see the dynamic is turned on there as well. Let's turn off the dynamic for the tongue. Press Control D a few times to subdivide it. I'm going to subdivide it to like 120,000. That's fine. Grab my inflate brush and I want to shape this a little more so it looks more like a tongue, right? So maybe you have kind of the middle, and we can scrunch this a little more too. Maybe he's yelling, so the tongue is, you know, forward a little more, right? And up. And if you wanted to, you can also solo it, so you can see it a little better. But essentially, I just want to do something like that. And we can also grab our Damien standard, just make sure there's a line there in the middle. All right, something like that. Let's jump out of solo and take a look. We can maybe make this look a little better. All right, and he's really yelling, right? So I think that's cool because some of that is just going to be hidden by the shadow anyways when we render, right? We're going to make sure we have a nice strong shadow. Now the next thing I would like to do is maybe let's add a couple more lines to his chin. So I'm going to grab my standard, press Alt and click on my mesh. Let's just add just a little more lines here. So there's maybe some stress lines going towards the mouth here as well. And at first, you know, when you're doing this, it's going to look super ugly, but just don't judge your work right away, because you want to make sure that you create this detail, and then what happens is when you hold down the shift key and smooth this out, then the detail kind of starts to incorporate itself into the body, and you can see that you have the subtle detail that is very important, right? I think that looks really cool. If we wanted to emphasize the lips a little bit stronger, again using Damien standard, let's flip this to add, and maybe let's just add like a nice strong line here. We can smooth out any imperfections and do something like that. If we wanted to, we can also go to standard. Let's go ahead and I'm going to move my reference over for a second. But if I go to standard and I go into drag, I can grab something like let's grab these Alpha 62. And let's just lay down some of these lines for the lips, some of the details, right? Smooth some of this out, and let's do the same thing on the bottom. Just very quickly, right? And then smooth this out. And I don't know if we need it on the side, but maybe a little bit. All right, I think that works. Let's take a look. We can smooth out anything that we are not happy with. Make sure that you also, I'm gonna switch back to standard dots and stroke, and then make sure that you emphasize the lip, right? You wanna make sure that we always add this little detail right here. I think that is important because any eye that's going to look between the nose and the lips is going to pick up on that little detail. We want to make sure that's there, right? And do something like that. We don't really need to add any stress on the top lip. I'm not really seeing too many wrinkles on any of these references here, but if you wanted to, you could just add, let's switch it back to subtract, just a couple lines. So it's a little, so it doesn't look too flat, right? I really want to make sure there's a lot of stress here. So let's go ahead and add some right into here, right? It goes something like that. I think that's important. We can even add more here as well. I keep emphasizing this area here. I think that's super important, but I want to make sure I keep that nice arc in there, and we can even keep adding more here as well. I think the more you have, the more kind of stressed he is. Let's see, what else can we do? So I think that is looking pretty good. It feels like some of this could be maybe broken in a little more. And let's make sure that this here is nice and strong. All right, so I think I'm pretty happy with this. Let's go ahead and render this out. And now, if you wanted to, you can also play with some lights. Let's turn on maybe, let's add a rim light. I'm gonna turn a second light on. Let's put it in the front. And if we turn up the Z intensity, now you can see that nothing is happening because of the material that I have. But if you switch it to a different material, like the basic, for example, or maybe like a, yeah, let's leave it on basic. But if I go back into my lights and turn the light on, you can see that it's currently in front and it's super bright. But if I click on it one time, it's going to put it in the back, and you can see it's creating like this nice rim effect. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to create a nice rendering with the basic lighting in ZBrush, but we can at least attempt to make it a little more interesting. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us the specularity coming from the basic material, and also you can start seeing some of that rim light. And honestly, I could even move it. Let's move it to the side maybe. It's a little more interesting. And if we wanted to, we can even add, you know, we can change the color of it. You can see maybe there's some kind of a fire on the right or on the left of him, right? So that's pretty cool. We can also, if we want to change this background color here, we can switch this to, let's keep this on white. Let's switch this to black, and then go to, let's go to document and click on back, and you can see that's now it's going to be black, and maybe that's going to be a little more dramatic just for presentation. Again, this is just a kind of a cheap ZBrush render, but let's just see what that looks like. I think that's pretty cool. Another thing we can do is we can always go to render, go to PBR filters. Let's turn on this filter sharpen, and let's crank up maybe the radius. And you can see that it's just make this a little more intense, right? All right, and there you go. So I think I'm gonna stop here. You can add a lot more details. You can add bumps on the tongue. You can add more colors and you know, textures. But as far as this exercise is concerned, I just wanted to kind of show you a quick, fun way how you can practice playing around with facial expressions by just using a base mesh here in ZBrush. All right, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.